Hi, I am Nash, and today our team dives into one of the most misunderstood moments. Together, we will look beneath the surface to find what grace has been trying to show us all along, that even in our confusion, God as truth still whispers through the noise. This is the God as Grace podcast, where faith is real, stories speak, and grace still changes lives. You know that feeling, right? That constant, almost subconscious effort to hold everything together. Your schedule, your reputation, your relationships, even just your daily to-do list. It's like we're perpetually juggling, trying to keep all the plates spinning.
Absolutely, and it's not just the external things, is it? There's this internal grip, this belief that if we just hold tighter, plan better, work harder, we can prevent the fall, we can control the outcome. But underneath all that supposed strength, there's this profound exhaustion, not just physical, but a deep soul-level weariness.
Exactly, that soul exhaustion. It's a very specific kind of tired, isn't it? And that's really where surrender begins. It's that moment you realize, I can't actually hold this anymore. I'm spent.
And it's such a powerful paradox, because in our culture, surrender often gets a bad rap. It's equated with giving up, with waving a white flag of defeat. But what we're talking about here is something entirely different. It's not giving up on life, it's giving your life over to the one who can actually carry what you cannot.
That's such a crucial distinction. Biblically, surrender has never been a symbol of weakness. Think about it. Abraham placing Isaac on the altar wasn't a failure, it was an immense act of faith. Mary saying yes to an impossible, miraculous conception wasn't acting out of fear, but out of a deep sense of freedom and trust. These were moments of profound strength rooted in surrender.
Right, it's about recognizing our limits, acknowledging that we were never actually in control to begin with. Soul surrender for me is that quiet whisper, God, I literally cannot hold this anymore. But you can. It's this incredible exchange, anxiety for alignment, the crushing pressure for genuine peace, just surviving for truly deeply living.
That's beautiful, anxiety for alignment. Because when we're trying to control everything, we're constantly fighting against the natural flow, against God's plan. But aligning ourselves with His will, with His wisdom, brings an incredible sense of ease. It's like finally letting go of the rudder in a storm, knowing there's a masterful captain at the helm.
And yet, despite how liberating that sounds, surrender feels incredibly hard. Our wiring tells us to hold on. We're taught from a young age that perseverance means never letting go, that if we just plan better, try harder, fix faster, maybe we can avoid any pain or discomfort. It's this illusion of control that promises security but often functions more like a prison.
Oh, absolutely. Those walls we build with control, they feel like they're protecting us, but they often just isolate us. And our wounds, too, play a huge role here. If we've been let down, if life has broken us in the past, we tend to grip even tighter. We protect our hearts by locking them up, forgetting that grace simply can't enter closed fists.
It's so true. It's a natural defense mechanism, but it's exhausting and ultimately unsustainable. Carrying everything alone, it will crush you. Surrender, on the other hand, invites us to release what is literally crushing us. It's an invitation to unlearn that fear we've internalized and to truly remember what love feels like. To trust again.
And it's not just a nice idea. Scripture doesn't just encourage surrender, it shows us what it looks like in action. We already mentioned Abraham, but think about Jesus himself. He surrendered to a plan that demanded unimaginable pain yet produced eternal redemption. His prayer in Gethsemane, not my will, but yours be done, is the ultimate act of surrender.
And Paul, once so addicted to controlling his own righteousness, trying to earn his way, to follow every rule perfectly, yet he became the writer who carried the heartbeat of grace to the world. It's a complete flip. These stories, they weren't written to impress us with their perfect faith. They were written to free us, to show us what's possible when we let go.
That's such a powerful point. They free us. Because true surrender transforms how we see ourselves. Control tells us our worth depends on what we can produce, prevent, or perform. It's a constant striving, a treadmill of trying to prove ourselves worthy. But surrender, it reminds us that we are loved even when we fall apart. In fact, especially when we fall apart.
And that's where the real peace comes in, isn't it? That deep, abiding peace that only descends when you stop believing everything depends on you. A rest that comes when you genuinely let God lead the outcomes. It's not about laziness, it's about acknowledging His sovereignty and your own humanity.
Exactly. Life begins to flow again. You stop forcing things to happen and start following where you're led. Suddenly, closed doors don't terrify you because you trust there's another path. Delays don't make you panic because you know His timing is perfect. Your decisions are guided by discernment, not fear. You actually get to breathe again, truly breathe.
It sounds like a dream, honestly, but it's a tangible reality. So if someone is listening and thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I actually practice this surrender in my daily life? What's a good starting point?
I think a powerful way to begin is each morning to simply start with open hands. Literally, physically open your hands as a posture of release and say, God, I release my agenda for today. Lead me. It's a conscious decision to start the day with that mindset, rather than immediately diving into our to-do list and our worries.
Oh, I love that. The physical act really helps to cement the intention. And perhaps, along with that, taking a moment to actually write down what you're letting go of. Name the weight. Is it a fear? A specific outcome you're trying to force? A relationship you're trying to control? When you name it, you can truly watch it lift, even if it's just a tiny bit at a time.
Yes, naming it gives it form, and then releasing that form is so freeing. Over time, you start to realize that surrender didn't make your life smaller or less significant. In fact, it made your heart larger. It didn't take control away from you in a negative sense. It placed your future in infinitely safer hands.
It's a beautiful shift in perspective. And what I've observed is that the most truly free people in the world are rarely the most successful by conventional metrics. They're the most surrendered. They've tasted the immense relief of not needing to be everything to everyone. Their grip has been replaced by grace. Their panic has been replaced by peace.
That's such a profound truth. Soul surrender doesn't shrink your story, it expands it in ways you couldn't have imagined. It allows for God's story to truly unfold through your life. So as we wrap up today, I really want to invite everyone listening to ask themselves that crucial question.
What am I gripping so tightly that it is actually hurting me? Take a moment, feel that tension, and then choose just one thing. Just one. God doesn't rush transformation, but He honors every single small surrender, every single step toward letting go.
This is truly just the beginning. The journey of letting go, of cultivating a surrendered heart, is a journey toward profound freedom. It's a journey toward a peace that doesn't depend on your own finite strength. And it's a journey toward the boundless grace that has always been there, just waiting for you to loosen your grip.
So let God lead. Let your soul finally rest, and let surrender begin. Thank you for joining us today, and we pray this conversation has offered you a new perspective on the power of letting go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Surrender series. Today we're diving into episode 2, and it's a topic that I think hits home for so many of us. Why surrender feels so hard when trust has been broken. You know, Jane, we hear that phrase all the time, just give it to God, as if it's some simple, easy switch we can flip. But honestly, it rarely feels that way, does it?
Oh, absolutely, Nash. It's one of those sayings that sounds so good in theory, right? Like, boom, problem solved, peace achieved. But then you actually try to give it to God, and it feels less like a gentle release and more like trying to pry your fingers off something you've been clinging to for dear life, often because you feel like your survival depends on it. It's a very human struggle.
Exactly. And I think that's the core of it. We're not just resisting the act of surrender itself, we're often resisting the feeling of vulnerability that comes with it. Because, let's be real, letting go can feel like stepping into a storm without shelter. It's not that we don't want peace, it's that we've been hurt while trusting before. And the heart, it remembers every disappointment, every betrayal, every prayer that felt like it just bounced off the ceiling.
Yeah, the heart remembers. That's so profound, Nash. It's like our minds build these intricate walls, designed for protection. We tell ourselves, never again. We stay alert, we stay busy, we stay in control because in those moments of past pain, control felt like the only thing that kept us from completely shattering. It felt like survival. And now, surrender asks us to do the complete opposite of what those wounds trained us for.
It's the paradox, isn't it? Surrender asks us to soften the places that were once destroyed. It asks us to open our hands when gripping tight was the only thing that ever made us feel safe. And no wonder that feels incredibly scary. It's not a rational fear, it's a deeply ingrained, almost primal fear stemming from trauma.
It's true. We fear the unknown for sure. We fear the outcome. But more than anything, I think we fear heartbreak repeating itself. It's that quiet whisper in the back of your mind saying, what if you let go and God doesn't catch you this time? Or what if you trust again and the pain just comes rushing back? Or even, what if surrender makes you vulnerable to an even greater loss?
You know, Jane, I've really been reflecting on that distinction. Sometimes we're not resisting God, we're resisting getting hurt again. And that's a huge difference, because God doesn't want to hurt us. But our past experiences project onto our present perception of Him, and we start to equate trust with pain, even if it's trust in a loving God.
That's such an important clarification. And it makes so much sense when you think about it. Fear, it doesn't always shout, does it? Often, it whispers these really insidious questions, these what-ifs, that plant seeds of doubt. It wants control because control feels like safety, like a fortress. But faith, true faith, it wants trust. And every battle for surrender, I think, begins right there, in that tension between fear and faith.
Oh, absolutely. That tension is real, and we tend to believe that if we could just plan better, prepare harder, and predict every single outcome, we could prevent suffering. But life, time and time again, proves the opposite. Control has never truly guaranteed safety, has it? All it guarantees in the long run is utter exhaustion.
Preach! Exhaustion is the perfect word. I mean, how many times have we run ourselves ragged trying to micromanage every detail, every potential pitfall, only to realize that life still throws curveballs we couldn't possibly have anticipated, and you just end up more tired, more stressed, and still not safe. Trust doesn't erase risk, that's for sure. But it does something far more powerful. It invites peace into that risk. It allows you to breathe in the midst of the uncertainty.
Yes, inviting peace into the risk, that's beautiful. And you know, even the giants of faith in Scripture wrestled with this. We look at them and think, oh, they just had it all together. But Moses questioned, Gideon doubted, Thomas demanded proof. Even Jesus, in Gethsemane, felt the weight of surrender so deeply that he sweated drops of blood. He knew the cost, but still he whispered, not my will, but yours.
It's a testament to how profoundly human this struggle is, even for Jesus. It wasn't an easy snap-your-fingers decision for him either. It was a wrestling. And that brings me comfort, honestly, knowing that if even Jesus wrestled, it's okay for me to wrestle too. It shows surrender isn't a one-time declaration, it's a repeated posture, a daily release. A slow, painful, but ultimately healing process for a heart that once had to fight tooth and nail to survive.
A slow healing, yes. So when we ask, why does surrender hurt? It's because something truly significant has to die for something greater to live. Fear must die for faith to rise. Control must die for peace to finally enter. Our old broken story must die for God to write a better, more beautiful one for us.
That's a powerful image, Nash, something having to die. It's not comfortable, but it makes sense. It's like shedding an old skin that no longer serves us, even if that skin felt protective at one point. Surrender asks for the most delicate, the most wounded parts of us. And I think that's where the fear really kicks in, because we think it's to expose those parts, to judge them.
But it's not. It's not to expose them, it's to restore them. God doesn't demand trust without offering comfort. He actually walks with us into those dark, scary places we've been avoiding, the fears we hide, the wounds we cover up. Those are the very places His love wants to penetrate and heal. He's not shaming our hesitation. He's honoring our honesty when we bring that fear to Him.
Oh, that's such a comforting thought. He honors honesty. Because sometimes that's all you have, right? Just the raw, messy truth of, I'm terrified to let go. It's not about being perfectly brave from the start, it's about being real. And I love the idea that every time you loosen your grip, even slightly, even just a tiny bit, heaven celebrates. Every time you choose trust over panic, your soul strengthens. Every time fear loses a little bit of its power, faith gains ground.
It's a gradual process, a daily decision to lean in, even when it feels counterintuitive. Surrender is hard because the heart matters. It's about tender, broken places. Control, on the other hand, it feels easy because it numbs us. It keeps us from feeling, from hurting. But faith, true faith, It's costly because it actually heals. It asks us to feel, to face, to trust, and through that to be made whole again.
So if it feels difficult, really difficult, it means you're doing it right. That's a powerful takeaway, Nash. It's not a sign of failure or lack of faith. It's a sign that you're engaging with something deeply profound and transformative. You're actually on the path God uses to rebuild us, to restore us.
Exactly. One release at a time, one brave breath at a time, one courageous surrender at a time. You're learning to live unburdened. You're learning to trust again, not blindly, but with a deeper understanding of who God truly is and how He works. You're learning that God can, indeed, be trusted with what hurt you. He can hold it all.
And that journey continues, doesn't it? It's not a destination, it's the path itself. Thank you, Nash, for unpacking this with me. It's been really insightful and honestly quite encouraging. For anyone listening who's struggling with surrender, remember that your fear is seen, it's honored, and it's part of the process. Keep bringing it to Him.
Absolutely, Jane, and thank you for your wisdom on this. It's a journey we're all on, together. So, to our listeners, if you found solace or a new perspective today, please share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. And join us next time as we continue our Surrender series, exploring more about what it means to truly let go and trust. Until then, take care, and keep leaning into that brave surrender. Welcome back, everyone, to the Surrender series. This is episode 3, and today we're tackling something I think so many of us wrestle with. What actually happens when you finally let go? I mean, we talk about surrendering, but what does it really look like on the other side?
It's such a powerful question, Nash, because letting go sounds almost passive, right? Like you're just giving up. But I think what we're talking about is anything but. It's an active choice, a really brave one.
Exactly, John. For me, it feels like this beautiful beginning. The moment you stop gripping life with white knuckles, that phrase just resonates so deeply. It's not that everything suddenly becomes perfect, but your soul, it just makes room. It finally breathes.
That's it, Elena. That breathing room. It's like when you're clinging so tightly, there's no space for anything new, anything different. You're just trying to force your own narrative.
And honestly, the first thing I notice when I manage to truly release something is this sense of peace. And it's a peace that doesn't make sense to my past self. The me who needed to control every single outcome would be completely baffled by the calm I can find now, even when things are up in the air.
Oh, absolutely. It's a calm that doesn't require guarantees, isn't it? You're not looking for a roadmap that promises everything will turn out exactly how you want. You're just present. And there's this profound rest that exists even in unfinished places. That's a huge one for me because my nature is to finish things, to have everything tied up with a bow.
Yes, the unfinished places. That used to be my personal hell, you know? Just the thought of ambiguity would send me spiraling. But now, it's like surrender changes the entire atmosphere inside you. It shifts from a frantic energy to something much more grounded.
It really does. And you start noticing things you used to completely ignore. Like, the other day I was dealing with a pretty stressful situation at work, and instead of just panic, this little glimmer of hope showed up. Not a huge, everything's fixed kind of hope, but just a small, quiet, you're going to be okay moment. I don't think I would have seen that before.
That's so true. It's like your eyes open wider to the subtle interventions, isn't it? A solution arrives before the panic has fully set in, almost like it was already there, just waiting for you to get out of its way. Or even a door closing, which in the past would feel like total rejection, but now it feels like protection. Like, okay, that wasn't for me, and that's a good thing.
Protection instead of rejection. Wow, that's a huge mindset shift, Elena. And it really speaks to how when surrender grows, fear truly starts to shrink. It's not an overnight thing, you know? It's not like poof, fear gone. But slowly, quietly, powerfully, it recedes.
Yeah, and for so long I equated control with strength. If I could manage everything, if I could predict everything, if I could prevent anything bad from happening, then I was strong. But now, that feeling has completely flipped. Trust, that's what feels like freedom now.
Freedom. That's the perfect word. You stop forcing things to happen. You stop trying to be your own savior. You stop living like everything depends on you, all the weight on your shoulders. And honestly, you just breathe deeper. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, you just take a fuller breath.
That deeper breath is everything, and it impacts your decisions too, doesn't it? For me, my decisions used to be so reactive, based on fear, based on anxiety, based on trying to mitigate every possible negative outcome. Now, they're less reactive and much more guided. It's like, instead of asking, what if this goes wrong, I'm genuinely asking, where is God leading me next?
Exactly. And that fundamentally changes the trajectory of your life. It becomes less about the immediate outcome, which we can't truly control anyway, and more about obedience, about trusting that guidance, even if you don't see the full path ahead.
And you know what else happens? Surrender just removes the noise. You can finally hear God clearly, or at least clearer than before. All that internal chatter, the what-ifs, the self-doubt, the planning, the worrying, it quiets down enough for that still, small voice to come through.
The noise. Oh, the noise. That's a powerful point, Elena. And when that noise dissipates, something truly unexpected starts to happen. Your identity changes, and I think this might be one of the most profound shifts of all.
That's a big one, Nash. What do you mean by that? Because I know for me, my identity was so wrapped up in what I did, how well I performed.
Well, you no longer measure your worth by productivity, by perfection, or by performance. That constant hustle for approval, it just stops. And honestly, you stop fearing those quiet spaces inside yourself because you're no longer defining yourself by external metrics.
Precisely. It's this beautiful realization that you are not loved because you are strong, you are loved by a strength that never fails. And that completely flips the script on how you view your own capabilities and limitations.
Wow. Loved by a strength that never fails. That's a perspective shift that takes so much pressure off, doesn't it? It means I don't have to be that strength all the time, which, let's be honest, I can't be.
And from that place, the surrendered heart becomes so courageous, not because it knows the future, we still don't, but because it knows the one who holds it. That's a completely different kind of bravery.
That's the kind of courage that allows you to face anything, isn't it? Because your foundation isn't shifting sands, it's unwavering. And it extends beyond just personal bravery, it actually makes you more gentle with yourself, which is huge.
I've definitely found that. When I'm not so hard on myself, when I'm not constantly striving for some impossible standard, I become more compassionate toward others too. It's like the mercy I extend to myself just naturally spills over.
And you become so much more present in the moment you're living. You're not always rushing ahead to the next thing, or dwelling on the last thing. You're just here. And your life expands from the inside out rather than trying to force it from the outside in.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Elena. Expands from the inside out. It's organic, it's natural, it's not strained. And another area where surrender brings a massive shift is in our relationship with waiting. Gosh, I used to hate waiting.
Who doesn't, right? Delays always felt like punishment to me, like I'd done something wrong, or God was mad at me, or I wasn't worthy. But now, they feel different. They really do.
They become preparation, don't they, instead of punishment. And closed doors, instead of feeling like rejection, they truly become redirection. You start to trust the detour. You trust the timing. Even when it feels agonizingly slow, you trust the promise, even when the path is winding and you can't see around the bend.
That's a profound shift, to move from seeing delays as setbacks to seeing them as part of a larger, divine preparation. Because every single time you surrender, you're reminded of this one crucial truth. God has never needed your control to fulfill His plan.
That's a mic drop statement right there, Nash. Because that's what we think, isn't it? We think we're somehow essential to God's plan happening, that if we don't grip tight enough, it'll all fall apart. But He's sovereign, no matter what we do or don't do.
And that truth, that realization, it changes everything. Because where surrender exists, grace grows. And where grace grows, healing begins. And where healing begins, peace settles in like morning light. It's this beautiful, natural progression.
Morning light. What a perfect image. Do you feel it, listeners? That quiet assurance, that unexplainable steadiness, that strength rising in places where fear used to live. That's what happens when you finally let go.
It's not about losing yourself, is it? We often fear that. We fear losing control means losing ourselves, our identity. But it's the opposite. You finally find the version of you God always intended.
absolutely. It's like shedding all the layers of who you thought you had to be, all the burdens you thought you had to carry, and revealing the true you underneath, the one that was always there, just waiting to be free.
So today, our invitation to you is simple yet profound. Breathe, release, trust again. This journey isn't finished, of course. More surrender will be required, more faith will be invited, and yes, more peace will be discovered.
God is actively writing freedom into your story, every single day, and all He asks, truly, is that you keep opening your hands, keep releasing, keep trusting. It's a continuous process, not a one-time event.
It's a beautiful, ongoing conversation with the divine, where each act of letting go opens you up to receive more of His grace and His peace. So let go a little today and see what beautiful thing begins.
What a powerful message, Elena and John. Thank you for sharing your insights and hearts today. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this journey of surrender. Until next time, keep opening your hands and keep trusting. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Surrender series. Today, we're tackling something I think almost every single one of us struggles with, perhaps even more than surrender itself. Waiting. Jane, doesn't it feel like we're constantly waiting for something?
Oh, absolutely, Nash. It's like we pray, we believe, we take that leap of faith to surrender, and then crickets. Or worse, not yet. Not yet can honestly feel like the most frustrating two words in the English language when you're desperate for a breakthrough, you know?
Right? We want answers now. We want healing now. We want that door to open the moment we knock, not months or even years later. It's almost as if our modern world has conditioned us for instant gratification, and when God doesn't deliver on that timeline, we get confused.
Totally. And that confusion can quickly spiral. Like when God says wait, it can feel like silence, and silence can feel like distance, and before you know it, distance feels like disappointment, and you're questioning everything. Did I hear Him wrong? Did He change His mind? Was that promise even for me in the first place?
Exactly that spiral. It's so easy to fall into, but what we really need to grasp, and what I'm constantly reminding myself, is that waiting is not punishment. It's truly not. Waiting is preparation.
Preparation. That's a good way to put it. Because honestly, in those moments, it really does feel like I'm being punished for something, or that I'm just not good enough to receive it yet. But you're saying every delay, every not yet, has a purpose we just don't see immediately?
Every single one. Think about the stories we've grown up with. David, for example, anointed king as a teenager, right? Full of zeal, full of potential. But he didn't get the crown for years. He spent that time fleeing Saul, leading men, learning to rely on God in the wilderness. He was being shaped.
Oh, that's a powerful example. And Joseph, he had this incredible dream as a young boy, right? Visions of his family bowing down to him. And then what? Sold into slavery, thrown into prison. Not exactly a direct path to the palace.
Far from it. But imagine if Joseph had gone straight from that dream to being Pharaoh's right-hand man. Would he have had the wisdom, the resilience, the forgiveness in his heart to handle the immense responsibility and the reunion with his brothers? I don't think so. The waiting built that.
It's true. It's almost like the waiting period itself was a crash course in leadership and character. And then there's Israel, promised a home, but they walked through the wilderness for 40 years first. 40 years. That's a lot of not yet for a whole nation.
And even Jesus, the Son of God, he waited 30 years before his public ministry began. 30 years of a quiet life, growing, learning, observing. It puts our few months or years of waiting into perspective, doesn't it? It highlights that waiting doesn't weaken the promise. It shapes the person who will receive it.
That's a profound thought, because usually we just want the promise to change quickly. We want the circumstances to shift. But God, He wants the promise to change us deeply. That's a totally different angle.
It is. There are moments when God slows us down, not because the blessing isn't ready, but because we aren't ready for the weight of what He's preparing. Sometimes the blessing is already built, but He's still building the character in us to carry it responsibly, humbly, and effectively.
Man, that hits home. I can think of times I've prayed for something, truly believed it was God's will, and then when it didn't happen, I was so frustrated. But looking back now, I can see how immature I was in certain areas. I probably would have messed it up or let it get to my head.
Exactly. Waiting reveals what we truly believe about God. Impatience, in its rawest form, says He is taking too long. But faith, true faith, says His timing is never late. It's a fundamental difference in perspective.
Never late. That's hard to hold on to sometimes, especially when you feel like everyone else is speeding past you, reaching their goals, getting their breakthroughs. You're just sitting there, feeling stuck.
It's a huge challenge, but consider this. When we ask for progress, sometimes God gives us roots. We want to shoot up like a plant, but He's saying, first let's establish a strong foundation underground.
Roots, that's so visually powerful. So the waiting isn't just stagnant, it's active, it's growing, just in a way we can't see yet.
Precisely. These are roots that anchor us when the storms of life inevitably come. Roots that keep us from being blown away by success when it does arrive, because let's be honest, sudden success can be just as destabilizing as prolonged waiting if you're not prepared for it. And roots that hold us steady when life rises and falls, as it always does.
That's a really good point about success. It's so easy to focus on the getting there part, but not the staying there or handling there part. So when God says not yet, it's truly not rejection then, it's what is it?
It's protection, it's positioning, it is love dressed up as patience. Think about a parent telling a child, not yet, sweetie. It's not because they don't love them or don't want them to have what they desire. It's because they see something the child doesn't, maybe a danger, or maybe a better way, or maybe the child just isn't ready for that responsibility.
That makes so much sense. It's like our perspective is so limited and His is infinite. He sees the whole timeline, the whole picture. We just see the closed door right in front of us.
And the hardest part of waiting isn't really the time itself, I don't think. It's the lies that time whispers to us, those insidious thoughts that creep in when we're feeling vulnerable.
Oh, tell me about it. The inner monologue starts with, "You're falling behind." That's a big one for me. Everyone else is publishing their book, starting their business, having babies, getting promoted, and I'm just here, in the same spot, or so it feels.
And then it quickly jumps to, you missed your chance. That door that was open for a second, you didn't jump through it fast enough, and now it's gone forever. Or, everyone else is moving forward but you. It isolates you, makes you feel like an anomaly.
Those lies are so powerful because they hit us right where we're most insecure, don't they? They capitalize on our fears of inadequacy or being forgotten.
They do, but the truth, the absolute, unchanging truth, stands firm against all of those whispers. You are right on time for the life God designed for you, not a second too early, not a second too late. His clock is the only one that matters.
Right on time. That's a hard pill to swallow when you're feeling the pressure of your own timeline, or society's timeline. It requires such a deep surrender to that idea.
It does, because no delay can derail what God has destined, none, and no detour, no matter how unexpected or how long, can cancel what grace has planned. His timing isn't slow, Jane, it's strategic. Every single step, every pause, every unexpected turn, it's all part of a master plan that is far beyond our comprehension.
Strategic. Wow. So surrender isn't just about giving up control over the outcome, but also over the timeline.
Exactly. Surrender means trusting God's clock more than your calendar. It means when doors stay closed, when progress slows to a crawl, when dreams seem to just be sleeping quietly instead of springing to life, we have to remember. God does some of His greatest miracles in hidden seasons.
Hidden seasons. That's a beautiful phrase. Like things are happening, but we just can't see them on the surface.
Exactly. Think about a seed. It grows underground, right? In complete darkness for a long time before it breaks the soil. Or a child developing in the dark of the womb for months before the world ever meets them. Even the sun rises long before the sky turns gold. There's so much crucial foundational work happening before the visible manifestation.
That's so encouraging. It's a reminder that just because I don't see anything happening doesn't mean God isn't working. He's working long before I see the proof, long before I see the sprout pushing through the dirt.
Absolutely. So while you wait, and this is the active part, right? While you wait, stay faithful. Keep showing up, keep doing what you know to do. Stay present in the season you're in, don't rush past it. And stay hopeful. Don't let those lies steal your hope.
Stay faithful, stay present, stay hopeful. That's a practical roadmap for the waiting room of life. Because it's easy to just shut down or get distracted when you're waiting, isn't it?
It is, and that's precisely what we need to avoid. Your story has not stalled, it's just unfolding in God's perfect sequence. Your promise is not lost, it's being refined. And God has not forgotten one single detail of what He has planned for you.
Not one detail. That brings so much peace, doesn't it? To think that the creator of the universe is meticulously orchestrating every single not yet and every single now in my life.
He is. In the waiting, he is weaving timing, purpose, and promise together into something far greater, far richer than any quick answer could ever produce. That instant gratification we talked about earlier, it often comes with less depth, less character, less appreciation for the journey.
You know, Nash, I think a lot of us can look back on past waiting seasons and see that now. Like, at the time, it felt interminable, but looking back, you're like, oh, if that had happened then, I wouldn't have met this person, or I wouldn't have learned that lesson, or I wouldn't have been ready for the next thing.
Exactly. That's the clarity hindsight offers. You will look back and you will say, now I understand why it had to be then, not before. That's the promise, so we have to trust him. The time will come, the door will open, the promise will live.
That's what we need to hold on to, that unwavering trust, even when everything in us wants to rush it along.
So keep surrendering, friends. Keep walking one step at a time through this season, and keep trusting the God who writes perfect timing into imperfect lives, into our often impatient lives, because your not yet truly is still love. It always is.
Your not yet is still love. What a powerful message to end on, Nash. Thank you for sharing that. It gives so much perspective and comfort in these seasons of waiting. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Keep leaning into that trust, and we'll catch you next time on the Surrender Series.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Surrender Series. We're on episode 5 today, and it's a topic I think is incredibly relatable, yet often deeply unsettling. When God is quiet, trusting Him even in the stillness.
Oh, Nash, you've hit on something so real. I mean, we've all been there, right? Those moments where you're praying, you're seeking, and it just feels like your prayers are echoing in an empty room. Heaven feels silent. It's a tough place to be.
Absolutely. It's a universal experience for believers. You know, the God who once felt so near, so intimately involved, suddenly feels distant. And that silence, it can be profoundly unsettling. It makes us wonder, did I do something wrong?
Yes, or is there some hidden sin in my heart that's blocking his voice? Or worse, have I been abandoned? Did I mishear his promise in the first place? All those doubts just rush in when the external confirmation isn't there.
Exactly. Silence has a way of amplifying our own internal anxieties. And if we're honest, it makes us listen to our own doubts rather than holding on to truth. And you know who loves to fill those quiet places with lies? The enemy.
Oh, for sure, the whispers start, don't they? If God cared, you would know. If God was actually working, you would see it. If he heard you, he would answer you right now. It's insidious, that kind of internal dialogue.
It is. It twists our perception. Because fear interprets silence as absence. It jumps to conclusions about abandonment or disinterest. But faith interprets silence as preparation. It's a completely different lens.
Preparation. That's a powerful reframing, because my first instinct is always absence, like he's not here. But the idea that he's actually preparing something, that shifts the whole emotional landscape of that quiet season.
It really does. And when you look throughout Scripture, you see this pattern over and over again. God often moved most powerfully, most miraculously, after long stretches of quiet. Think about Noah.
Noah! Yeah, I mean, building an ark on dry land for decades, with no rain in sight. Talk about silence. No immediate confirmation, just the command and the long, long wait.
Precisely. And Abraham, he walked in silence for years after being promised a son, a nation. Years before Isaac finally arrived. Imagine the internal battle during that time. Every year that passed, every not yet from heaven, must have been a test of his faith.
And Joseph, that always gets me. Sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison. He had dreams of leadership, of his family bowing to him, and then he's just in a dungeon, with no updates, no heavenly message saying, hang in there, Joseph, it's all part of the plan. Just silence.
Exactly. No divine email, no angelic memo, just the oppressive silence of a prison cell. And then you have Mary, carrying the Son of God, a miracle inside her, with no immediate explanation or validation from the world. People probably looked at her with judgment. and she had to navigate that quiet trust in what God had spoken to her privately.
That's a huge one. She knew the truth, but the world didn't, and God wasn't shouting it from the rooftops for her. She had to hold on to that truth in the quiet. And then, the ultimate example, Jesus himself.
Yes, Jesus in the tomb, the darkest, quietest moment imaginable for humanity. 3 days of silence. It must have felt like absolute defeat, like the end of everything for his disciples. But we know what broke that dark silence, don't we? Resurrection. The ultimate proof that silence isn't absence.
Wow, when you lay it out like that, it's undeniable. It's not just a sometimes thing, it's a recurring pattern throughout redemptive history. God uses silence. It's not him holding back, is it?
No, it's really not. I think sometimes silence is God holding us still. We're so prone to rushing ahead, to trying to fix things in our own strength, to clamoring for the next answer or the next instruction. And sometimes he just needs us to pause, to be still, so he can work in ways we can't comprehend yet.
Holding us still, that makes so much sense, because in my busy, noisy life, I'm constantly seeking input, stimulation, answers, and when that's stripped away, it's jarring, but it forces me to confront myself, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Silence teaches what noise never will. In the quiet, we discover whether we truly trust God or if we just trust his answers. Are we just waiting for the what, or are we trusting the who?
Oh, that's good. Trusting his answers versus trusting him, that's a crucial distinction, because if I only trust his answers, then when the answers stop coming, my trust collapses.
Precisely. But if my trust is rooted in his character, in who he is, his goodness, his faithfulness, his love, then the absence of an immediate answer doesn't shake me as deeply. In silence, we learn to listen beyond our fear. We learn to tune into a different kind of frequency, a deeper truth.
And that's where faith grows deeper roots, isn't it? Because it's not based on what I can see or hear right now, but on something much more fundamental. It's a conviction that runs deeper than circumstances.
Exactly. There are things God can only give you when you are quiet enough to receive them, when you're not trying to solve everything, or striving, or demanding. Sometimes silence is God saying, your future is already moving. Wait and watch. He's orchestrating behind the scenes.
Wow, your future is already moving. That's such a comforting thought, because my mind often goes to nothing is happening, I'm stuck. But to think he's actively moving things even when I perceive stillness.
Yeah. Or he might be saying, I am doing more than you can see right now. We have such limited perspectives. We see a tiny sliver of reality, but he sees the whole tapestry being woven, and often those intricate foundational threads are laid in quiet.
And sometimes I feel like he's saying, the next step is coming, do not rush ahead of me. Which is hard because I'm a planner, I like to know the next step. But in silence, I'm forced to just wait for him to illuminate it.
That's part of the surrender, isn't it? Silence clears space for surrender. When all the noise of our own striving, our own solutions, our own anxieties fades, there's just space. Space to truly let go and trust that he's got this.
It's like detoxing from constant input, and it leaves room for him to step in a way he couldn't when I was so busy filling the space myself. So when God feels quiet, he hasn't stepped away then, has he?
Not at all. In fact, I believe he has stepped closer, closer to the places inside you that need healing. Sometimes his quiet voice isn't for external direction, but for internal transformation. It's coming straight for your deepest wound, your most guarded insecurity, your unexamined assumptions.
That's a really tender thought, to think that his quietness isn't punitive but actually a deep, intimate work of healing, like a surgeon operating with precision, needing the patient to be still.
Exactly. And that's why trust in the silence is trust at its purest. It's trusting that God has not changed. His character is immutable. It's trusting that his promises still stand, even when you can't see how they'll be fulfilled.
And trusting that his plan is unfolding, even when your eyes see absolutely nothing. That's the hardest part, I think, for me, to believe in an invisible movement, an unheard plan.
It is. But that's where the roots of your faith dig down into the very character of God himself. Not what he gives you, Not what he proves to you in that moment, just who he is, his inherent goodness, his unshakable faithfulness, his enduring love.
Just who he is. That's a beautiful distillation. It strips away all the conditional elements of my faith and gets down to the core of it.
And faith that survives silence becomes faith that silence cannot shake. Because once you've been through a season of profound quiet and come out the other side, knowing he was there all along, knowing he was working, that conviction runs deep. It makes you resilient for the next season of stillness.
So if you're in a quiet season right now listening to this and feeling all those doubts and fears, what would you say is the most important thing to remember, Nash?
Don't panic. Seriously, your story has not paused. Your prayers have not been forgotten. Your breakthrough has not been canceled. God is working in ways you would not believe even if he explained them to you in vivid detail.
That's so true. I often want the full blueprint, but sometimes, thankfully, he withholds it because it would be too much or we'd interfere. So stay close.
Stay close. Stay tender. Keep your heart open and receptive. And stay surrendered. Remember that the quiet you feel right now is not the end. It's the sacred space between your last miracle and your next one. It's fertile ground.
Oh, sacred space. I love that. It turns something I usually dread into something holy. So hold on to hope.
Hold on to truth. And most importantly, hold on to the God who speaks even when he seems silent. Because your faith is not alone in the stillness. He is there. He has always been there.
Listening, leading, loving you into what comes next. That's a beautiful and powerful note to end on, Nash. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jane, and thank you all for joining us on this journey of surrender. Until next time, stay blessed. Welcome back to the Surrender series, everyone. Today, we're diving into something truly countercultural, something that, honestly, society often tells us to hide away, to bury deep. We're talking about the gift of weaknesses and how God uses what we simply cannot carry.
Oh, Nash, this hits home for so many of us, doesn't it? I mean, from the time we're little, we're taught that weakness is, well, something shameful. You fall, you get up. You're struggling, put on a brave face. It's almost ingrained in us to cover it up with busyness, with confidence, with humor, with accomplishments. Anything to not appear vulnerable.
Absolutely, Jane. It's like the world applauds strength, and conversely, it really punishes vulnerability. We pretend to be fine, even when we're crumbling inside, because the thought of someone seeing our cracks just feels dangerous, I guess. Like you'll be judged or, worse, dismissed.
Exactly. But here's the beautiful paradox we want to unpack today. God works so differently. What the world calls weakness, God often calls the doorway to his power. It's such a profound truth that flips everything we've been taught on its head.
That's incredible to think about. I remember years ago, I was going through a really tough time, and I just kept trying to power through it. I thought if I just worked harder, prayed longer, smiled brighter, I could overcome it myself. But I was just exhausting myself, pretending to be fine.
And that's the thing, right? We often see weakness as evidence of failure. We interpret our struggles, our limitations, our areas where we just can't measure up, as a personal failing. But the truth is, weakness isn't the evidence of failure. It's actually an invitation for grace.
An invitation for grace. I love that, Elena, because when you look at Scripture, it never shies away from weakness. In fact, it highlights it. Think about some of the biggest names in the Bible. Moses stuttered. Gideon was absolutely terrified. David, a man after God's own heart, wrestled with fear and made huge mistakes. And Paul, the apostle, he begged God to take away his thorn in the flesh.
It's true. I never really put it all together like that. These aren't just minor character quirks, they're foundational parts of their stories, often directly linked to how God used them.
And in each of those instances, God's answer wasn't, "Get stronger, Moses," or "Be braver, Gideon." It was a message that echoes through the ages. My strength is made perfect in weakness. It's like God waits for us to reach the end of ourselves before he truly begins to move.
Exactly. Weakness is where human striving ends and divine strength begins. It's that moment you finally throw your hands up, utterly exhausted, and say, "I can't do this anymore." And that's precisely when God steps in and says, "Good, now let me show you what I can do."
That must be why it feels so freeing, even though it's terrifying to admit you're not strong enough. Like a huge weight lifts off your shoulders because you're no longer responsible for carrying the impossible burden.
It truly is. When you surrender your weakness to God, something holy happens. Suddenly, your limitations no longer limit Him. Your fears, which felt so defining, no longer have the final say. And your past, with all its mistakes and disappointments, no longer predicts your future.
That's the radical shift in perspective. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" which is a question that can really torment us. Instead, you start believing, "God is enough in me." It completely changes the entire dynamic of how you approach life's challenges.
I've been there, trying to prove I'm enough, trying to measure up, constantly feeling like I'm falling short. It's an exhausting treadmill. To actually stop and realize, wait, it's not about me being enough, it's about God being enough through me, that's just revolutionary.
And it makes so much sense when you think about it. There are battles you simply cannot win with talent, no matter how gifted you are. There are mountains you cannot climb with sheer willpower. And there are doors you cannot open by force, no matter how hard you push.
And that's not a sign that you're failing. It's actually a sign that you're being led. Weakness redirects you to God's strength. It's like a compass pointing you towards the only true source of power. If we could do it all ourselves, why would we ever need Him?
Oh, that's good. If we could do it all ourselves, why would we ever need Him? That's a mic drop moment right there. It makes you reconsider every time you felt utterly helpless. Maybe that helplessness was actually a divine redirection.
Precisely. When you feel small, truly insignificant, God whispers, "Watch what I can do through you." When you feel empty, completely drained, He says, "Now I can fill you." And when you feel utterly broken, shattered into pieces, He says, "My love heals better than your pride ever protected you."
That imagery of pride protecting us, but God's love healing better, is so powerful. We think hiding our weakness makes us strong, gives us control, keeps us safe. But God says revealing it, truly exposing those vulnerable parts of ourselves to Him, is what actually makes us whole.
It's a different kind of strength, isn't it? Not the "I can do everything" strength, but the "I can be honest about my limits and still be okay" strength. That feels so much more sustainable and, frankly, more real.
It's strength rooted in humility, independence. Weakness actually softens the heart. It teaches us compassion, not just for others but for ourselves. And crucially, it exposes the illusion that we could ever truly succeed without Him. Because, let's be honest, that's a lie we often tell ourselves, that we're self-made, self-sufficient.
That's a tough pill to swallow for many, including myself at times. We want to take credit, we want to feel capable. But when we come face to face with our genuine limitations, it's where faith truly learns to breathe. It's where our reliance shifts completely.
So, the surrendered soul, it doesn't brag about its own strength, right? It boasts about grace. It sees every limitation not as a roadblock, but as a reminder that God holds the final outcome. Every struggle becomes a pathway to deeper dependence on Him.
And that's the definition of surrender in this context. It's not saying, "I can't." It's actually saying, with a posture of expectation, "God, you can." It's a declaration of faith, not a resignation to defeat.
That distinction is everything. God, you can. That's where the power lies. And what's even more beautiful is how God then takes those very things we perceive as flaws, as failures, as painful experiences, and redeems them.
Like, your deepest flaw might become the very testimony someone else desperately needs to hear. Your pain, which feels so isolating, could actually become a ministry you never would have chosen for yourself, but one that touches countless lives.
And your failure, the one that feels like the end of the world, that might just be the very place where resurrection begins, where God breathes new life into something that seemed completely dead. It's an incredible hope, isn't it?
It's an incredible hope, and it completely reframes how we view ourselves. You are not disqualified by your weakness. That's a lie the enemy loves to whisper. No, you are positioned by it. God uses those very points of vulnerability to place you exactly where He needs you to be for His glory.
So, then what does that look like practically? How do we actually offer God the part of us that feels insufficient because sometimes it just feels too big, too messy?
It means bringing him those habits you cannot break, no matter how hard you try. It means offering him the grief you cannot seem to heal, the sadness that lingers. It means holding open before him the fear you cannot silence, the anxiety that keeps gnawing at you. Don't hide those places that ache. Hold them open.
That's such a freeing image. Hold them open before Him, not to be fixed immediately in our own strength, but to be met by His. Because God's strength doesn't just replace your weakness, it saturates it, it shines through it, it transforms it.
Oh, I love that. Like, it doesn't erase the weakness, it fills it with something divine. It reminds me of that beautiful analogy you shared earlier, Nash, about the stained glass window.
Yes, imagine a stained glass window. It's not flawless, it's full of individual pieces joined together, often with cracks or imperfections in the glass itself. But when the light passes through every single one of those unique pieces, through every crack, it doesn't diminish its beauty, it becomes luminous. That is what grace looks like on the other side of surrender.
Not flawless, but luminous. What a powerful way to describe it. Our weakness isn't the end of the story. It's the very chapter where God does His greatest, most miraculous work. It's where His glory truly shines.
So, the message is, don't despise your weakness, don't hide it, don't let it shame you, instead, view it as an opportunity, an invitation to experience God's power in a way you never could if you were strong enough on your own.
Exactly. Let him take those parts of you that feel inadequate, those places where you fall short, and watch what he can do. Watch how his strength is made perfect, not despite your weakness, but precisely because of it. It's a profound journey of faith and dependence. Thank you for joining us on this vital discussion today, Jane and Elena.
Thank you, Nash. It's always a privilege to dive into these truths with you both.
Absolutely, this has been such a freeing conversation. And to everyone listening, remember, your weakness is not a barrier, it's a bridge to His boundless grace. Until next time, lean into His strength.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Surrender series. I'm Nash, and with me as always is the wonderful Jane. Today we're diving into a topic that, honestly, hits home for me in a big way. Obedience without the outcome. Jane, when you hear that, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, Nash, it's a big one, isn't it? For me, it immediately brings up that deep-seated human desire for control, We all want the full map, don't we? Like if God just handed us a detailed itinerary complete with timelines and guarantees, faith would feel so much easier.
Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't that be incredible? Imagine knowing exactly how long the journey would take, or that every single step would make perfect sense. No detours, no unexpected bumps. Just a clear, straight shot to the promised land. That's the dream, right?
It really is. But then, if we're being honest, that's not usually how it works, is it? Most of the time, in my experience, God gives us just one instruction at a time. It's like, go or move or trust me here. And then He adds that little kicker, I will show you the next one later. And that later part is where I sometimes get stuck.
Oh, tell me about it. It's that constant tension between our desire for certainty and His invitation to surrender. We want guarantees, but God wants trust. And in that space, obedience suddenly isn't about understanding the ending anymore. It becomes this profound act of courage, not comprehension.
Courage, yes. It makes me think about those incredible biblical stories. Abraham, for example, he walked not knowing where he was going. Can you even imagine that, just packing up everything and heading out, simply because God said so, with no destination on the GPS?
Exactly. And Peter stepping out of the boat onto the water. He didn't have a blueprint, he didn't have a safety net, he just had Jesus' word, come. And he stepped, not knowing if his feet could hold faith long enough or if the water would suddenly give way. That's raw, unadulterated obedience.
And the disciples feeding thousands with just a few loaves and fish. They weren't given a detailed plan on how the multiplication would happen. They were just told, you feed them. They offered what little they had, without knowing how the overflow would miraculously appear. It's such a powerful picture.
Or even Mary, holding this incredible promise inside her, this divine secret, without knowing the immense cost, the joy, the sorrow, the entire future that would unfold from that yes. God didn't explain the outcome to any of them. He simply invited obedience.
It really shifts our perspective, doesn't it? Because we're always trying to figure it out, to map it out. We want certainty, but God wants surrender. We want guarantees, and He's asking for trust. It's a fundamental difference in approach.
It is. And the most liberating part of that, I think, is understanding that obedience doesn't actually require us to understand the ending. It only requires us to trust the author, the one who's writing our story, who knows the beginning from the end.
That's a profound thought, Nash. It takes so much pressure off, doesn't it? Because often, the clearest direction from God is just a whisper, one step. Just enough to move forward, but crucially not enough to feel like we're in control. And that's where the surrender truly happens.
Exactly. Because if we felt fully in control, where would the faith be? Where would the need for Him be? Obedience, in its purest form, is faith choosing action over answers. It's saying, I don't know why, but I'll do it anyway because you asked.
That's so good. And it applies to so many areas of our lives, not just the big, dramatic, biblical moments. It's making that phone call God nudged you to make, even if you don't know what will come of it. It's forgiving someone before you know if healing will truly follow or if they'll even apologize back.
Oh, forgiveness is a huge one, Jane. That's an obedience that feels so counterintuitive sometimes, especially when you're still hurting. Or starting that project God's laid on your heart, even when you have no idea who will care, or if it will ever succeed by worldly standards.
Or even walking away from something, a job, a relationship, a situation, before you know what comes next. That's probably one of the scariest ones for me, that leap into the unknown, trusting that He has something better, even when you can't see it.
It really is. And often, our biggest hang-up is that we equate faith with the absence of questions. We think if we have doubts, we don't have enough faith. But that's just not true. Faith isn't the absence of questions. Faith is moving anyway despite the questions, despite the uncertainty.
That's such an important distinction, Nash, because I think so many people get hung up on needing all the answers before they'll take a step. They're waiting for certainty, and meanwhile life just passes them by.
Exactly. But when you actually lean into that, when you obey without seeing the outcome, something really transformative happens in your spirit. For me, the first thing is that fear loses its voice. It doesn't disappear entirely, but its grip loosens. It can't paralyze you like it used to.
Oh, absolutely. And then, control loosens its grip too. That need to micromanage every aspect of your life, to plan for every contingency, it starts to fade, because you realize you can't control it all anyway, and trying to is just exhausting.
And that's when God truly becomes your guide, rather than just your backup plan. We so often treat Him like a cosmic insurance policy, someone we call when things go wrong. But when you're obeying without seeing the outcome, He's the one leading every single step.
That's so true. You discover that God doesn't reveal the destination to prove Himself to you. He reveals the destination as you walk, and that's how He shapes you. It's in the journey, in those uncertain moments, that you really grow.
The journey becomes sacred, doesn't it? Every single step, even the ones that feel pointless or confusing at the time, becomes a testimony. And those uncertain moments, the ones that make your stomach clench, they become the very spaces where God shows Himself faithful, over and over again.
It's like a grand adventure, where you don't know what's around the next bend, but you know the one who's leading. And honestly, obedience has a way of turning even the most ordinary days into divine encounters. Have you ever experienced that, Nash?
Oh, countless times, Jane. It's like you overhear a conversation you desperately needed to hear, or you stumble upon a resource you'd been praying for. Sometimes a heart opens up that you thought was completely closed off, or a path appears where you saw only walls just moments before. It's truly wild.
It really is. It's proof that God honors obedience with provision. When you do what He asks, even when it feels illogical or scary, He does what only He can do. He steps in and orchestrates things in ways we could never imagine.
I think about the times I've been asked to speak, or to serve in a way that felt completely out of my depth, and I didn't understand the outcome, didn't see where it would lead, definitely didn't feel ready, but I said yes, that one step. And then, wow, He showed up in incredible ways.
Same here, Every time I've said yes to something that felt beyond me, that was clearly just one step without the whole picture, I've seen him move. It's like he's waiting for that act of trust, that surrender, to then pour out his blessings and his guidance.
So, to everyone listening, I want to really lean into this. You may not understand the outcome. You may not see where this leads. You may not feel ready, or qualified, or brave enough, but just walk anyway.
Yes, walk anyway. Because obedience has this incredible power. It writes a story for your life that you could never ever write alone. It leads you into moments that reveal just how present God is, even when the plan, His magnificent plan, is completely hidden from your view.
So, take the step today, whatever that one step is for you, that gentle nudge, that quiet prompting. Say yes again, today. Not because you know the end, not because you have all the answers, but because you know the one who walks beside you.
One step at a time, one surrender at a time, one yes at a time. Because truly, Nash, this is the path of faith that ultimately becomes sight. And what a journey that is.
It truly is, Jane, and I think that's such a powerful place to wrap up today. It's not about seeing the whole picture, it's about trusting the painter. It's about taking that next brushstroke, even when you don't know what the final masterpiece will look like.
Beautifully put, Nash. And it makes me think about those times when you're just standing at the edge of something new, feeling completely unqualified, but it's in that moment of saying yes that you unlock so much more than you could have imagined.
Right. It's not about our strength or our wisdom, it's about His. And He just needs us to be willing, to be available, to take that seemingly small step that, in His hands, becomes monumental.
And often, that one step is just a moment of honesty or a moment of vulnerability. It's not always a grand dramatic gesture. Sometimes it's just sending that text message or making that apology or opening up to a friend.
Exactly. And those are often the hardest steps because they feel so personal, so risky. But those are the moments where fear loses its power and we discover a deeper layer of trust in God's goodness.
It's like peeling back an onion, layer by layer. Each act of obedience, however small, reveals a little more of His character, a little more of His faithfulness, and a little more of the beautiful story He's weaving through our lives.
And it makes me wonder how many divine encounters, how many answered prayers, how many breakthroughs we miss, simply because we're waiting for the full explanation, because we're trying to calculate all the risks instead of just taking the leap of faith.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The cost of waiting for certainty can be so high, and yet the reward of just leaning in, even when it's scary, is beyond measure. It's truly living a life of adventure with the Creator of the universe.
Absolutely. So as we close today, our encouragement to you is this. Don't overthink it. Don't try to foresee every twist and turn. Just focus on that one step God is asking you to take right now. Trust Him with the outcome. He's got it. He always has.
And remember, He delights in showing up in those unexpected moments, in those surprising ways. When you've dared to trust Him with your unknowns, it's where the real magic happens. So go ahead, take that step. You won't regret it.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Surrender series. It's been a profound conversation, Jane, as always.
Thank you, Nash, and thank you all for listening and being on this journey of surrender with us. Until next time, keep walking forward, one step at a time.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Surrender series. Today, in Episode 8, we're diving deep into a topic that I think resonates with so many of us, often on an unspoken level: identity beyond performance, when grace defines who you are. Honestly, when I first thought about this, it hit me hard. How often do we feel like we have to earn our place, earn love, earn acceptance?
Oh, absolutely, Nash. It's almost baked into our culture, isn't it? From childhood, we're praised for good grades, for winning games, for being well-behaved. And while those things aren't inherently bad, they can subtly teach us that love and approval are conditional, that our worth is tied to what we do.
It's true. I think many of us carry that into adulthood, into our careers, our relationships, even our faith. We believe we have to hustle, to strive, to keep proving ourselves worthy. We put on this armor of strength and call it our identity, but inside, there's this constant, gnawing fear. If I fail, will I still be enough?
And that fear, it's exhausting, isn't it? It keeps your soul on this perpetual treadmill. Your heart is guarded because you don't want anyone to see the cracks, to see where you might not measure up. It keeps us performing a role instead of truly living, truly being who we are.
Exactly. The energy it takes to maintain that facade, to constantly chase perfection. It's unsustainable, and it leaves you feeling so incredibly vulnerable because deep down you know you can't keep it up forever. Something's gotta give.
And that's where grace steps in, isn't it? Grace invites a completely different way of seeing ourselves and seeing God. It flips that entire script on its head.
It really does. Because grace tells us that God doesn't measure our value by our success or our perfection. He doesn't love us based on the results we produce or only when we impress Him. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Grace gives us our identity before any achievement.
That's such a radical thought in a performance-driven world. We're so conditioned to believe that you earn your stripes, you prove yourself, and then you get the title, the recognition, the love. But grace says, no, the title, the love, the belonging, it's already yours.
And the ultimate example of this, which always just floors me, is Jesus. Before He performed a single miracle, before He taught anything publicly, before He healed anyone, He heard those words from heaven. You are my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Identity came before accomplishment. Beloved came before capable. Go out by.
Wow. Just think about that. How often do we wait for a certain achievement, a milestone, a pat on the back, before we allow ourselves to feel worthy, before we claim our place? But Jesus was affirmed in His identity simply by being.
Grace names us, acknowledges us, long before we do anything to deserve that name. Performance tells us, earn your place. Grace assures us, your place is already secure. That's a fundamental shift in perspective.
It really changes everything. Performance says, be more. Grace whispers, you are mine. It's not about what you bring to the table, it's about whose table you're already seated at. It's about belonging, not earning.
And the pressure that just melts away when you truly start to believe that. Performance says, work harder. Grace says, rest. You are loved. Rest. How many of us are desperately craving that kind of soul rest?
So many. We're culturally programmed for hustle. Rest often feels like laziness, or like we're not doing enough. But if our worth is already secure, if we're already loved, then rest isn't a deficit. It's a reflection of trusting in that secure identity.
It ties directly into surrender, doesn't it? Control often comes from that deep-seated fear of being unworthy, of needing to manage everything to ensure we're accepted. But surrender comes from knowing our worth has already been given. It's a gift, not a wage.
And when that identity settles in grace, failure no longer destroys us. Think about that. How many of us avoid risks, avoid trying new things, because the fear of failure is so paralyzing? It's not just about failing at a task, it's about the fear that failure will somehow diminish our very essence.
That's so true. I know for me there have been times where a setback felt like a personal indictment, not just a missed goal. It felt like it exposed some fundamental flaw in me, making me question my entire worth. But if worth is anchored in grace, failure becomes an event, not an identity.
And rejection. Oh, rejection can be brutal. Whether it's a job application, a relationship, or even just someone not liking your idea, it can feel like a deep personal wound. But when identity is rooted in grace, rejection doesn't define us. It's not a commentary on our inherent worth.
It loses its power, doesn't it? The same goes for comparison, that constant keeping up with the Joneses or scrolling through social media feeling less than. When you understand your identity is already secure, already complete in grace, comparison just loses its grip. It doesn't have the teeth it once did.
We become free, free to grow, genuinely, without the terror of falling apart if we stumble, free to try new things without the paralyzing fear of being judged, and truly, truly free to rest without guilt. Imagine that, resting without a nagging voice telling you should be doing more.
There's Unijum. I think that guilt is so deeply ingrained in so many of us, that feeling that if you're not constantly pushing, constantly striving, you're not worthy of anything good. It's a hard habit to break, that constant striving.
It is, but the beautiful thing about grace is that it doesn't fluctuate. God's love doesn't increase when success arrives. It doesn't decrease when weakness shows. It's just constant. There's nothing to prove because grace has already spoken first.
Dean?
And this is where the striving part of us, the part that's been so conditioned to earn, might resist this truth. It whispers, but what if I don't measure up? What if I'm not good enough? Grace simply replies, there is no measurement. There is only belonging.
That's such a profound distinction. We're not projects God is evaluating, checking off boxes. We are children God is embracing. That changes everything about how you approach your life, your faith, your relationships.
Day 6. Every moment we spend proving our worth is a moment we're forgetting that we already have it. It's like having a treasure map to something you already possess, but you're still digging in all the wrong places.
It's about releasing that pressure. Releasing the pressure to perform, releasing the fear of disappointing God. Because He's not disappointed by our humanness. He's drawn to it. He embraces us in our weakness.
And releasing that identity built on applause, attention, and achievement. It's all so fleeting, isn't it? The applause fades, attention shifts, achievements are quickly superseded. But an identity anchored in grace, that's eternal.
Orbit.
You are loved at your emptiest. You are valued at your weakest. You are accepted during your messiest chapters. Just sit with that for a moment. That's not something you earn, that's something you receive.
Good. Your worth isn't fragile. It's not something that can be broken by a bad day or a poor decision. It's anchored in the one who never changes. That is rock-solid ground, isn't it?
It completely reframes everything. Grace isn't the reward for the strong. It's the identity of the surrendered. It's not something we achieve. It's something we inhabit. It's who we are when we stop trying to be someone else.
Pow.
So, as we close out today, let this truth really settle in your spirit. Nothing you do can make God love you more, and nothing you fail to do can make God love you less. It's that simple, and yet profoundly complex for our performance-oriented minds to grasp.
Well over.
You belong because He said so, not because you earned it, not because you proved it, but because He declared it. That is your identity. That is freedom, and that, truly, is the heart of surrender.
State. What a beautiful truth to end on. Thank you everyone for joining us for this powerful conversation. We hope this truth rests deeply in your spirit today, bringing you peace and freedom. Until next time, lean into grace and embrace your true identity. Take care. Welcome back to Surrender, everyone. Today we're diving deep into a topic that, honestly, I think touches every single one of us at some point, and for many it's a constant companion, the fear of failure. It's a heavy one, right? That feeling when a mistake feels like it's shouting louder than any truth you thought you'd learned.
Oh, absolutely, Nash. It's like failure has this incredibly loud megaphone, replaying every past screw-up, every risk that didn't pay off, every moment you just weren't enough. It's so insidious how it sneaks in and reminds you of all the things you thought you'd moved past.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that this fear of failure, it's rarely about the failure itself. It's about what we believe that failure says about us. It's the narrative we construct around the stumble that truly paralyzes us. We fear that if we try and fall, people will see what we tried to hide, or doors will close permanently, or even worse, that God will be disappointed in what we couldn't accomplish.
That's so true, John. And when we believe those narratives, what happens? We play it safe. We dream smaller. We stop stepping into the very things God is calling us toward. It's like fear convinces us that caution equals wisdom, but sometimes, honestly, caution is just control wearing a religious mask, isn't it?
Control wearing a religious mask. That's a powerful image, Elena. It makes you wonder how many opportunities, how many divine nudges we've missed because we were too busy trying to manage the outcome to prevent any potential fall. But isn't the whole point of surrender to release that control?
Exactly. And it's such a paradox, isn't it? We hold on to this idea that we have to be perfect, that God only uses flawless people. But when you look at Scripture, it's the exact opposite. God has never chosen perfect people. He chooses surrendered ones. He chooses the ones who are willing to say, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to step out in faith anyway.
That's a critical distinction, Jane. Scripture is absolutely overflowing with stories of people who failed before they flourished. Think about Peter. He literally sank before he preached some of the most powerful sermons. Moses murdered before he led an entire nation. David fell in some incredibly public and painful ways before he became the great king. And Paul, he persecuted Christians before he became the apostle who wrote letters of grace that still shape our faith today.
It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it? It makes you realize that God doesn't discard the ones who fall. He rebuilds them. Failure isn't the end of obedience. Sometimes, it's how obedience actually begins. We often think failure proves we're unworthy, but in God's hands, failure proves that grace is real. It's like a living testament to His boundless mercy.
Grace is real. That's a beautiful way to put it. Because let's be honest, those moments of failure, they can feel so isolating, so definitive. But what you're both saying is that our mistakes don't actually threaten God's plan. He knew every misstep long before we even took our first step, didn't He?
Yes, completely. I mean, think about it. If our mistakes could derail God's grand design, then His plan wouldn't be very grand or very godlike, would it? He's not surprised by our humanity. He factored it in. That's why the fear of failure is truly the enemy of our calling. It tells us to retreat when faith calls us to rise.
And that retreat can be so subtle. It's not always a dramatic "I'm quitting" moment. Sometimes it's just a slow fade, a gradual shrinking of our vision, a quiet reluctance to step into discomfort. But every risk taken for God, even if it doesn't pan out the way we expect, is a seed planted in His soil. Even if the plant doesn't grow the way you imagined, the seed is never wasted.
That's such an encouraging thought, John, because often we measure success by the visible plant, right? But God sees the intention, the faith, the act of obedience, and He uses failure not to punish us, but to actually shape us, to shatter pride, to grow wisdom, and to deepen our dependence on Him.
Shatter pride, grow wisdom, deepen dependence. Those are profound outcomes from something we typically dread. It makes me think about those what-if questions. Fear always asks, what if I fall? But faith asks, what if God lifts me higher than I expected? There's a huge difference in those perspectives.
Oh, totally. Fear says, what if they laugh? Faith counters with, what if someone is actually inspired to try again because they saw me get back up? It's a complete flip of the script. It moves the focus from our perceived inadequacy to God's incredible capability.
And the ultimate what if from fear. What if this ruins everything? It's so catastrophic, isn't it? But faith offers a different possibility. What if this becomes the turning point? Because so often in life, those moments where we hit rock bottom or where something falls apart are exactly when new paths emerge, when we're forced to look upward and trust in something bigger than ourselves.
Precisely. We can't let the fear of what someone might think make us bury what God has given us. We can't let insecurity silence our calling, even if it feels like it's shouting louder than our courage. And we absolutely cannot let failure define us, when grace has already named us as children of God, redeemed and loved.
Grace has already named us. That's a powerful truth to cling to, because the reality is, we won't always get it right. We won't always see results immediately, and we definitely won't always feel confident. Surrender doesn't promise perfection, does it?
No, it absolutely doesn't promise perfection. And I think that's where so many of us get stuck. We think surrender means giving up control and then everything will magically be perfect. But what surrender does promise is transformation. It promises that through the process, through the ups and downs, we will be changed. We will grow.
And it's in that space of transformation that the fear of failure loses its power. Because when you truly understand that you are loved unconditionally, that your worth isn't tied to your performance or your success, then failure becomes less terrifying. The fear loses its grip where love has already won.
So what does that mean for us in our daily lives? It means that we can try again. We can start again. We can show up again. Not because failure is impossible, because we know it's a part of life, but because God is faithful in every outcome, even the messy ones.
Every outcome, that's incredibly reassuring. So it's about letting our courage be louder than our fear, letting our obedience matter more than our pride, and letting surrender lead us where safety never could.
It's so freeing to think that way, because truly you are not failing when you fall. You're only failing when you refuse to rise, when you stay down, paralyzed by the fear of falling again.
And rising isn't about doing it perfectly the next time. It's just about getting back on your feet, brushing yourself off, and taking one more step in faith. It's about remembering that God writes redemption into every single attempt that is placed in His hands, no matter how it initially appears.
So to everyone listening, if you're wrestling with that fear of failure, I just want to encourage you. Let go. Step forward. Take the risk. Because when you surrender that outcome to God, you're not just letting go of fear, you're opening yourself up to a transformation that you might not even be able to imagine right now.
Beautifully said, Elena. What a powerful message to end on. Let go. Step forward. Take the risk. Trust that God's redemption story is bigger than any of our missteps. Thank you all for this incredible conversation today, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on Surrender. We'll catch you next time. Welcome back to the Surrender series, everyone. Today, we're diving into what might be one of the toughest aspects of surrender, at least for me, releasing the need to understand everything. You know, that constant human craving for answers, for clarity, for knowing exactly where we're going and why. It's just ingrained in us, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Nash. I think for so many of us, uncertainty just makes us incredibly uncomfortable. Like, if I don't have a plan, if I don't have the why, it feels like I'm losing control. And who wants to feel like they're losing control, right? It's almost an immediate panic button for me.
That's so true, Jane, and then that leads us to overthink everything. We start searching for explanations, demanding reasons, even making assumptions when, let's be honest, heaven often stays quiet. We fill in the blanks with our own anxieties or theories, which rarely helps.
It's like we expect God to hand us a detailed itinerary for our lives, complete with footnotes and a glossary. And when He doesn't, we assume something's wrong. But what if the mystery itself is part of the journey, part of the process of growth?
Exactly, Elena, because when you really think about it, faith doesn't live in the places we completely understand. Faith thrives where questions are bigger than our answers. If we had all the clarity, all the information up front, would it really require faith? Would it really be trust?
That's a powerful point. I mean, it's easy to trust when everything is laid out logically. But the real test, for me anyway, is when I'm in the dark, when nothing makes sense, and I still have to choose to believe He's got it.
And that's where we often stumble, right? When life doesn't make sense, we assume something's gone wrong. We forget that God works in mysteries far deeper than our logic could ever comprehend. We try to fit His infinite wisdom into our finite understanding.
It's like the scripture where He says, "My thoughts are higher than your thoughts." We hear that, and sometimes it sounds a bit dismissive, like you wouldn't understand. But I think He says it to comfort us. It's an invitation to lean into His immense wisdom, not a rebuke for our lack of it.
That's beautiful, Elena. It's not to confuse us, but to comfort us. Because if we understood everything God is doing, if every step was perfectly clear, then faith really wouldn't be necessary. Trust wouldn't be trust, and surrender wouldn't be surrender. It'd just be following instructions.
And honestly, I've had moments where I've insisted on knowing every single detail. I wanted to approve the plan before I followed it. And it's not how God works, is it? He rarely operates on our terms, no matter how much we try to impose them.
No, He doesn't. He leads us on paths we would never choose, and often toward outcomes we could never even imagine. It's almost like our limited understanding would prevent us from even considering the greater things He has in store.
I find so much comfort in that, actually, because if I only relied on my own vision, my own logic, my life would be so much smaller. But when I let go of needing to understand everything, I open myself up to a grander story, a more beautiful tapestry than I could ever weave myself.
It's like we see only the chapter we're currently in, but he sees the whole story. And sometimes those chapters don't make sense in isolation, right? We're so focused on the immediate narrative that we miss the overarching plot, the character development that only makes sense later.
Oh, tell me about it. I look back on situations now, things that felt like total dead ends or disappointments at the time, and I can see how they were actually critical detours, how they positioned me for something I couldn't have imagined. But in the moment, pure confusion.
That's why it's easy to trust God when the reason is clear. When you get that job or that healing or that sudden breakthrough, it's like, okay, I get it. But the real test of faith comes when the reason is hidden, when you're in that wilderness phase and you have no idea why you're there.
And that's where the beauty of surrender really comes in, isn't it? It's saying, I don't understand this, I don't see the way, but I know your heart, and your heart is good. It's resting in his character when the circumstances are chaotic.
Yes, absolutely. We want a roadmap, right? A GPS for our lives, but God says, walk with me. We want explanations for every twist and turn, but God often says, watch what I will do. We're asking for the why, and he's giving us the who himself.
That's a huge shift in perspective. It means redefining success or what making progress looks like. It's not about ticking off boxes on my understanding checklist. It's about deepening my relationship with him, even when the path is foggy.
And I think that's where a lot of our discomfort with mystery stems from. We equate mystery with absence. Like, if I don't understand, God must not be present or working. But what if mystery is often the evidence that he is closest, that he's doing something beyond our comprehension?
Oh, that's such a beautiful thought, John. It makes the unknown feel less frightening and more sacred. Like this is where he's inviting me into a deeper intimacy, a place where I have to rely solely on him.
It's a powerful reframe. Mystery isn't the absence of God, it's often the evidence that he's closest. And the surrendered heart in those moments can pray, I don't understand, but I trust you. I don't see the way, but I follow you. I don't know the purpose, but I know your heart.
I remember a time when I was really struggling with a situation, and I was just begging for answers, for a sign, for something. And I felt like I heard, not audibly, but in my spirit, peace doesn't come from answers, Jane. Peace comes from my presence within the questions.
Wow, that's profound, because we're constantly chasing those answers, thinking if we just figure it out, then we'll finally have peace. But you're right, it's about finding him in the midst of the chaos, not necessarily waiting for the chaos to resolve first.
And it reminds us that our primary goal isn't necessarily to solve all of life's riddles. Our primary goal is to walk with God, to know him, and to let him lead. Understanding is not the requirement of obedience, love is.
That's a key distinction, Elena. Love is the requirement. When we operate from a place of love and trust, we're saying, even if this direction doesn't seem logical to me, I trust that you, who are love itself, are leading me right. There will be blessings that arrive differently than expected, losses that still lead to healing, prayers answered in ways that stretch belief.
It's like sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen when we've stopped trying to force our own understanding on things, when we just step back and say, okay, God, your turn, and then something unexpected unfolds.
We often put God in a box expecting him to work within our parameters, but he's constantly inviting us outside of that box, into something bigger, something we could never conceive, and that's where the real adventure of faith lies.
And there's this beautiful promise too, isn't there? That one day the pieces will come together. One day we will see the thread God was weaving through it all. We'll understand why certain prayers had to wait and why certain disappointments were actually a form of deliverance.
Yes, there's a future clarity, but until then the invitation is to rest in what you know of God instead of what you don't know of life. His wisdom exceeds your wondering. His love exceeds your limits. His purpose exceeds your understanding.
That's so freeing, truly, to not have to carry the burden of figuring everything out, because honestly, that's exhausting. To know that I just have to be faithful in the mystery, that's a weight lifted.
It goes back to the core of surrender, doesn't it? Giving God the right to lead, even when the path makes no sense. It's his story, and he's the master storyteller. We're just characters in his grand design.
And what an amazing, comforting thought that is. The one who wrote the beginning already holds the ending, so we can trust him completely to write the middle. We don't need to scribble our own frantic explanations into his masterpiece.
Beautifully said, Elena. So to everyone listening today, if you're in a season where nothing makes sense, where clarity feels miles away, remember this. You don't have to figure everything out. You simply have to be faithful in the mystery. Trust the author of your story. Thank you all for joining us on this powerful journey of surrender.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been a privilege to share this space with you.
Yeah, really appreciate the conversation and the insights. Until next time, keep surrendering.
And remember, his presence is peace, even within the questions. Take care.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Surrender series. This is episode 11, and today we're diving into what is arguably one of the most challenging aspects of surrender: letting go of control in our relationships and trusting God with the people we love most.
Nash, you hit the nail on the head. When I think about things I've tried to surrender, plans, dreams, even my future, those are tough. But the people? My kids, my spouse, my parents? That feels like a whole different league of difficulty.
It really is. And I think it comes from such a pure place, doesn't it? We care so deeply for these individuals, so naturally, that deep care often translates into deep worry. We want the best for them, and sometimes we believe we know what the best looks like.
Exactly! You see them heading down a path or making a decision, and every fiber of your being just wants to jump in and fix it, or guide them, or protect them from potential pain. We honestly believe that love means holding on tightly, doesn't it?
That's such a common misconception, and it's something we really need to unpack. Because while that instinct to protect is natural, the prompt for today's episode states something profound. Control is not love. Control is fear dressed as responsibility.
Wow, fear dressed as responsibility. That's a gut punch, but in a good way. It makes me reevaluate so many of my past actions. Was I truly loving, or was I just terrified of what might happen if I wasn't in charge?
And the fears are so legitimate too. We fear losing them, fear them making wrong choices, fear them getting hurt, fear they'll walk away from us or from faith. And underneath it all, often, is the fear that we aren't enough to keep them safe.
It's a heavy burden, isn't it? When we try to control someone, we end up stepping into a role we were never created to fill. The savior of someone else's story. And honestly, who can carry that weight?
No one can. We're attempting to shoulder their decisions, their growth, their faith, their healing, their consequences, even their destiny. It's an impossible task that, frankly, only God is equipped for.
I've felt that weight, that constant anxiety. It's like trying to hold on to water you just can't. And the more you grip, the more it slips away, or the more you hurt yourself trying to contain it. You want good things for them, but your love becomes heavy because you're holding what only God can carry.
That's exactly it. So what's the alternative? If control isn't love, then what is? The prompt suggests that surrender doesn't mean loving less, it means trusting more.
And that trust is powerful. Trusting that God sees what we cannot. Trusting that God can reach them when we, with all our human limitations, simply cannot. And trusting that God is working in ways that we often can't even perceive or measure.
There's a beautiful line here. There comes a moment in every loving relationship where God whispers, "Do not stand in my way, stand with me instead." How do we discern that whisper? And practically, how do we stand with God rather than in his way?
I think it starts with a paradigm shift. Our role isn't to control their choices. Our role is to reflect Christ while they choose. To be an example of love, grace, and patience, even when their choices might make us uncomfortable or afraid.
And it's not to remove every struggle, which is so hard as a parent, you know? You want to pave the smoothest road for your kids, but sometimes our role is simply to walk beside them through the struggle, offering support and presence, rather than trying to solve everything for them.
That's true wisdom right there, and it frees us from the pressure of guaranteeing the outcome. Our role is to love faithfully, just like God has loved us. Unconditionally, persistently, and with an open hand, not a clenched fist.
It brings to mind the parable of the prodigal son, doesn't it? The father didn't chase him down, didn't force him to stay. He let him go, and the son eventually returned home by the grace of God, not the grip of his father.
That's such a perfect illustration. Imagine if the father had tried to control every aspect of his son's life, or withheld his inheritance. The son might have rebelled even more, or never learned the lessons he needed to learn. The father's surrendered love created the space for transformation.
And that space, that freedom to make their own choices, even painful ones, is where real growth often happens. It's where they encounter God for themselves, not just through our lens.
So then, practically, what does this surrender in relationships look like in our day-to-day interactions? How do we live this out?
It means praying more than pressuring. Instead of badgering someone about their choices, we take it to God. It's shifting our energy from direct intervention to fervent intercession.
And listening more than lecturing. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is just be present and truly hear what's on their heart, without immediately jumping in with advice or correction. Just be a safe space.
Encouraging more than demanding, building them up, affirming their worth and potential, seeing them through God's eyes, rather than setting a list of expectations they need to meet.
And underlying all of that, truly trusting more than fearing. It's a daily, sometimes hourly, battle against that natural inclination to control. But the peace on the other side is immeasurable.
The prompt also gives us a powerful prayer of release. God, I release the illusion that I can save them. I place them into your hands, where they have belonged all along. That's such a freeing statement, acknowledging our limitations and God's sovereignty.
Oh, just reading that, you can almost feel the physical weight lift off your shoulders. It's like admitting, okay, I tried, and I'm exhausted, and frankly, I'm not good at this anyway. You take over, God.
And what a beautiful truth that they have belonged in His hands all along. It's not like we're finally giving Him something He didn't already have. We're just aligning our perspective with His reality.
So when we do this, when we release that illusion of control, what actually changes? Does our love for them diminish? Does our concern disappear?
Not at all. The concern is still there. The hope for their well-being, the deep love, all of that remains. What profoundly changes is the weight. The burden of being their outcome is no longer ours to carry.
Exactly. You rest in the truth that God is far more invested in their life than you are. Think about that for a moment. The creator of the universe, the one who knit them together, who knows the number of hairs on their head, He cares more deeply and perfectly than we ever could.
And He has a perfect plan for them, even through their missteps. That thought brings such incredible peace. We don't have to orchestrate every detail, because someone infinitely wiser and more loving is already doing so.
And this truth extends to every single person we love, no matter how distant or difficult their situation seems. The prompt reminds us, no one you love is outside God's reach.
That's such a comforting thought, especially for those of us who have loved ones who've wandered far. Not the one who left, or the one who rejects faith, or the one struggling with addiction,
Or the one drowning in doubt, or the one finding their way one painful step at a time. God's arm is long enough. His grace is vast enough. No one is too far gone for Him.
And that means we can truly let God be God in their life, and let yourself be at peace in yours. What a beautiful exchange, our anxiety for His peace.
It really is. This entire episode has been a journey into understanding that surrender is not stepping back from love, it's stepping back into trust.
and finding that the safest place for someone you love is not in your control, it's in God's hands.
So release them, pray for them, love them, and trust God with the rest. That sounds like true freedom for both them and for us.
It's a daily practice for sure, but one that promises deep peace and genuine connection, knowing we're partnering with the ultimate source of love and wisdom. What a powerful truth to cling to.
Absolutely. Elena, Jane, John, thank you so much for this insightful and deeply personal conversation today. This topic resonates so much with so many of us.
Thank you, Nash. It's always good to be reminded of these truths.
My pleasure. May we all find the courage to release and trust.
And find that peace that truly surpasses all understanding. Thanks, everyone.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Surrender Series. Until next time, keep surrendering, keep trusting, and keep finding peace in God's capable hands. We'll talk to you soon.
Welcome back to the Surrender Series, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that honestly I think resonates deeply with all of us. Breaking free from what you cannot change, peace with the unfixable. You know, there are just some parts of life that simply won't bend to our will. Situations we can't repair, people we can't force to change, outcomes we can't reverse. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Oh, absolutely, Nash. I think we've all been there, right? That feeling of hitting a wall, trying everything, and still, that thing, that person, that situation, it just stays stubbornly the same. And the frustration, the sheer exhaustion that comes from that, it's immense.
It's interesting because the podcast brief really highlighted something crucial. Some burdens remain heavy because we believe they should not exist. We get so hung up on the what-ifs or the it shouldn't be this way. That's where a lot of the struggle truly lies, isn't it? Not just in the problem itself, but in our fight against its existence.
Exactly. Or even worse, some wounds remain open because we believe they should already be healed. We put so much pressure on ourselves or on life to just move on or get over it, when some things they don't resolve neatly on our timeline. And that self-judgment, that's a whole other layer of burden.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly replaying conversations we can't redo, rewriting endings that will never come to pass. We hold on to questions with no answers. It's a mental and emotional loop that just drains you. The text says, exhaustion grows where acceptance has not yet been invited, and I just felt that in my bones.
It's so true. I've spent so much energy, honestly, trying to fix people or situations that were fundamentally beyond my control, thinking if I just said the right thing or tried harder or explained it better, it would all click into place. But it rarely does, and then you're just left feeling utterly depleted and like a failure.
And it's a very human tendency, isn't it? This desire for control, this belief that if we apply enough effort or logic, we can bend reality to our will. We're problem solvers by nature, but sometimes the problem isn't meant to be solved by us.
Which brings us to that incredibly liberating statement. There is freedom in acknowledging, this is beyond my ability to fix. Just saying that out loud, or even just in your heart, it feels like a heavy weight has been lifted. Not every battle is ours to fight. Not every problem is within our power. And certainly, not every heart is ours to heal.
That's such a profound shift in perspective. It's not giving up, it's a recognition of limits, a recognition of where our responsibility ends and another's, or God's, begins. It's about letting go of that perceived responsibility to fix everything.
I think that's where the fear comes in for many of us, though. We equate not fixing with not caring or giving up. Like if I don't constantly try to intervene or change things, it means I'm not invested enough, especially in relationships. But sometimes, holding on too tightly actually pushes things further away.
And that's where the concept of surrender often gets misunderstood. It's not about apathy. The text clarifies this beautifully. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is giving God permission to write the next part of the story. It's an active step of trust, not a passive shrug.
Oh, that's such a powerful reframe, John, because giving up sounds so final and defeatist. But giving God permission is incredibly empowering. It means you're still part of the story, but you're inviting a divine author to take the pen for the parts you can't write.
It implies a deeper wisdom, right? That there's a bigger narrative unfolding, one that we might not fully grasp in the moment. And our attempts to force our own ending might actually be hindering the better story God is trying to tell.
I often find myself struggling with this in retrospect, looking back at situations where I fought tooth and nail, only to realize years later that if I had just surrendered sooner, I would have saved myself so much heartache. But in the thick of it, it's hard to see.
It's like that analogy of trying to paddle upstream against a strong current. You exhaust yourself, make very little progress, and could have just floated downstream to a better destination if you'd let go. It requires faith to let go of the oars.
And the text gives us such a profound example of that kind of surrender. Christ in Gethsemane. The path ahead was painful. The cup before him was unchangeable. Yet he prayed, "Not my will, but yours." And peace entered the place where fear once stood. That's it, right there. That's the ultimate model.
Gethsemane is such a pivotal moment because it wasn't easy for Jesus. He was in agony, wrestling with what was to come. He didn't want to drink that cup. But he surrendered his will to his Father's, knowing that his Father's plan, however painful, was ultimately perfect. And that's where the peace came from, not from the cup being taken away, but from accepting it.
That's a huge distinction, isn't it? Peace does not arrive when everything works out. Peace arrives when everything is surrendered. That goes against so much of what we're conditioned to believe. We think peace is the absence of problems, but it's really the presence of God in the midst of them.
It challenges the very definition of peace for most people. We often chase problem-free as the path to peace, but life is full of problems. So if peace depends on problems disappearing, we're rarely going to find it. Surrender offers a different, more sustainable path.
And it acknowledges the reality that there will be memories that still sting. There will be disappointments that remain complex. There will be relationships that do not reconcile the way the heart hoped. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about finding peace within those unresolved realities.
That's the beauty of it. It's not a superficial grin-and-bear-it attitude. It's deeply rooted in the belief that even so, God continues to work. He repairs what is broken in ways unseen. He redeems what seems lost through means unexpected. He restores what human hands could not rebuild. That's a powerful promise to cling to when everything feels chaotic.
It gives you permission to grieve, too, to acknowledge the sting, the disappointment, the brokenness, without letting it consume you, because you've entrusted it to someone who can handle it, even if you can't.
So what does this look like in practice? How do we actually release the outcome that refuses to change? I mean, it sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult to actively let go of something you've invested so much into, or that means so much to you.
I think it starts with recognizing that pressure, the pressure to fix what only God can heal. It's about remembering our responsibilities. You are responsible for obedience, not perfection. You are responsible for love, not results. You are responsible for surrender, not control. That helps put things in perspective.
That reframes our entire understanding of success in a situation. It's not about achieving the outcome we desire, but about faithfully stewarding our part and trusting God with the rest. It frees us from the burden of results.
I think for me, practically, it often means physically letting go. Like if I'm worrying about a family member's choices, instead of calling them up again to try and fix it, it means taking that worry and literally handing it over to God in prayer. Sometimes I even visualize it, like putting it in a box and offering it up.
That's a great practical tip, Jane. I've heard people talk about writing down their worries and then tearing the paper up, or putting it in a God box. It's a tangible way of saying, this isn't mine to carry anymore. For me, it's often about identifying the specific story I'm replaying or the outcome I'm trying to force, and then consciously challenging that narrative.
And it's not a one-time thing either, right? Surrender isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. We constantly have to revisit it, especially when old anxieties or old desires to control creep back in. But each time you choose to surrender, it gets a little easier, and the peace deepens.
Yes, absolutely. Because the peace isn't dependent on everything being resolved. Your peace depends on everything being entrusted to God. That's such a powerful anchor for our souls, isn't it? It means we can have peace even when the storm is raging.
That truth is so comforting, because how many times do we wait for the perfect moment, for all the pieces to fall into place, before we allow ourselves to feel peaceful? This says, no, peace is available now in the midst of the mess, if you just surrender it.
It also speaks to resilience, I think, knowing that freedom is possible even when clarity is not. We don't need all the answers to move forward. We don't need to understand every why to find a measure of peace and even joy.
And that healing can happen while circumstances stay the same. That's a huge one, because so often we tie our healing to a specific change in our outer world. But true healing, the kind that transforms us from the inside out, can happen independently of external shifts. God works in those unresolved places.
It's about allowing grace to fill the gaps that will not close, allowing hope to survive unanswered questions. It's about trusting in a God who is bigger than our problems, bigger than our understanding, and ultimately good.
That takes such a radical kind of faith, doesn't it? To say, I don't understand, but I trust. to not demand an explanation or a specific outcome, but to just rest in his faithfulness.
It forces us to redefine what success looks like. It's not about winning every battle, but about being faithful in the ones we're called to fight, and surrendering the rest. Our responsibility is not to carry the unfixable. It's to trust the one who restores all things.
And what an incredible relief that is, to know that we're not called to carry the weight of the entire world, or even just our little corner of it all by ourselves. We're called to trust the one who restores all things, in his time, in his way, with his wisdom.
So, as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with this incredibly potent message from our theme today. Let go. Not to lose, to live. It's a call to freedom, to peace, to a life unburdened by the struggle against the unfixable. It's about trusting God with the parts of your story that you cannot write. Thank you all for joining us on this vital conversation. Until next time, keep surrendering and keep living.